Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you. All views and opinions expressed on this show belong to the individual and are not necessarily shared with the producer of the show. Want more details? Go to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com. Now let's get real and have some fun. Who are we going to explore with today? Come on with me and let's get into the deep.
Even team behaviors can be based on fear, and they are.
Right.
I mean, most of the things that we do and understand are fear-based. That's how we really interact with this world, and we can look at any place where we're not at peace, we're in fear. It's just so common to us to be in fear. I don't know personally if I know how not to be in fear.
Well, wasn't that
Wasn't
that what I'm sure I heard this before, and I don't know if it was you that said it, but isn't that the whole point of, like, it's the only planet that has this level of fear, so this is what we came here for?
Well, the only aspect of Earth, the only dimension of Earth, there's so many different realms of the physical that it's hard to make that statement.
Okay.
Of all the beings, but our particular world that has emotions and has, there's so many dimensions of Earth. This dimension of Earth is the one that supposedly is the only one having war. Isn't that a wonderful understanding?
Yes, that's fabulous.
I won't go into that. I want to bring up this other analogy that I have really been, I love analogies. Analogies, have certain kinds of wisdom and make things kind of clear in a certain way. Mm-hmm. I've been playing this game of rummy with my husband. It's something that we do just, to spend time together and use our brains. And in this kind of rummy, there's a certain finite number of little tiles that you take out of the box and you put one by one. Each turn you take another one. And at the beginning of the game, you're supposed to make runs and sets. And it's very hard because there's a limited number of tiles in play. And when I start to think of those tiles in terms of maybe lifetimes or understandings, that until we get enough tiles in play, the game is frustrating if I allow it to be, and that's why I started looking at this, is because I would find myself going, I don't have the right tile. Oh, what's wrong here? What am I doing wrong? What's this just wrong? And and then there's this competition that ends up coming between us, and I'm thinking, you change that. It's not right. That's not, and whatever. And to the point where I go, Debbie, look at the tiles in the box. When there's less tiles in the box, isn't it funny how the game goes better? I think, isn't that like life? The more experience and understandings I have, the more at peace I can be. The more I know, the more the better I do. And that's just taking tiles out of the box. That's just having more options. So maybe 57,000 different ways of having coffee is actually a very good sign about our world. That having all these possibilities, like you said, when you had your baby and, you had one possibility of position, and, that wasn't helpful. Maybe if we have more possibilities and love our possibilities, we have a much greater chance to have peace because our own individualities are reflected then in the world. And, life is somehow more expansive and roomy. But I also think that in order to, there's this combination of experiences that as more pieces come out of the box, maybe more lifetimes, more understandings, we also have to make room in our behaviors for those. So there has to be a balance. There's the new wine coming up and the old wine skins if we can accept that we're going to have old behaviors about things, we can also look forward to the time when we step into these new understandings in a more graceful and accepting way. And isn't that, to me, like what maturity is about? Things that I would have done when I was younger, that when I do them, I'm kind of embarrassed later on at my gaucheness or the awkwardness that comes with all these things. It's
right.
Starting from when I learned to walk, which I can't actually remember.
Yeah.
As the more and more experiences and understandings of life come to us with the more grace, the more time we can give ourselves that, hey, I've been through this before. I know that when something new happens in my life, I just, need new strategies, take more time. And if I can be in my better behaviors, even though there are these new experiences coming, things just work out better. So when I play this game with my husband and I quit getting frustrated all the way through the game, I enjoy it so much more. It becomes a social time and a sharing time that builds our relationship rather than creating competition between us, rather
right.
than me creating competition between us.
Right.
When I can say to my husband, hey, good move, because I know 3 moves down the board, him putting that piece or that set on the board is going to help me.
Right.
So
and it's interesting, too, even when you're telling me that, I'm thinking how different it is when you're playing with an adult or someone you consider your peer, or as often with couples, there's kind of a good-natured competition, like sometimes we have, right? Like there's those, and sometimes we take it too far. But when we're playing, like let's say I was teaching my grandchild how to play, and he made a good move that I knew was actually going to create a situation where he might win. I would encourage him. I would be like, what an awesome, how I would be looking at him through the eyes of, look at his thought process. Look what he, it would be kind of a different, an entirely different energy.
Yes.
And so much more fun.
And that's where, how about if we live life like that? It's just a choice, isn't it? If we take those analogies of these simple things in our life, like playing a game with your grandson, my husband, whatever, and we say, what's the most fun here? Well, some people say that they like to compete, and my understanding is maybe they like to compete against themselves. I don't know. Maybe people do like to win. That's not necessarily I do like to win, I have to say, but not because I'm beating somebody.
Right, and that's where, competing against yourself, like doing better than you did yesterday and that kind of thing, or doing something you've never done before, which is always just
having
awesome.
A completion. Like my husband and I, we have this thing that when one person wins, the other person gets another turn to try and come in second. We're the second winner. I used to play Scrabble with this lady in this very small town in Alberta I lived in. And she was she was a retired teacher, and I was an ex-teacher, or something, not at that time. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We played Scrabble, and she was quite competitive, and she, but what we found was because we were both really good Scrabble players, what we liked to do was help each other use our tiles to make the best words. So we would help each other. We'd look up words in the dictionary. Well, what about this one? Or maybe that word, or here, what about this place? Here's a good place. And we had so much fun that she went to her seniors club and tried to institute this kind of game with the other seniors, but they were not impressed.
That's funny, though, because and there you go. That's the thing is, so you have this understanding how this can be fun, and then you take your enthusiasm out into the world and you get hammered, like, that's not fun and this is serious, or if you try to make light of something.
A lot of people get a lot of their personal esteem from beating people. Not everybody, but there are people out there, and you take that away and there's no meaning for them, and whatever that is. When I was a teacher, we studied that the concept that in some cultures in the world, especially primitive cultures that need, well, I say primitive, it's not an awful word, different cultures that needed to survive by cooperating, taught cooperative games and got every bit as much pleasure from them as we do from competitive games. And as a teacher, we were encouraged to, create opportunities for cooperative games to happen. And a good example was a game that they played in some, forest tribe where they would take a huge big leaf and the head person would rip this leaf up into one piece for every person in the tribe. And then, they were all mixed up and you got your piece and your job was to put it into place so that together you would all reform the shape of the original leaf.
Wow.
Like a community jigsaw. And that was the kind of games they played because it had a purpose to show people how to work together and encourage each other because that's how their economy, their survival worked.
Yeah, I just love that. And I'm really, I'm wanting, of course my passion is peace, but it's, a lot of people want peace. We, at some point, some place inside of us, we want peace, but peace hasn't really been something well, for one thing, we've not known peace on the planet. So we
and when you see how our education systems teach in the survival kind of mentality, where, the goal is to get this letter grade or this percentage grade that only is available to certain people. Like, in university, they grade on the bell curve, and professors are not allowed to write a test or use a test for marking, where a certain, more than a certain number of people got A's and another certain number have got B's, that they have to teach to the bell curve.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and it's very common that that's how professors' adequacy has in the past anyways been looked at, is that, testing the numbers of the IQ of the certain percentages of intelligence and also, students who are going to work hard, you have to have your tests come out with these particular numbers of people in each letter grade area.
Whoa. That's pretty sad. No wonder we haven't really,
advanced.
Seen and seen the gifts of all of, the potential of people that.
Well, and then we have companies coming in like McDonald's that are so, they have found without any error that what makes their business work is if people are taught to work as a team. Mm-hmm. That every part of the job is, and cooperative games are taught in specific ways to show people how to work together, to iron out the difficulties under stress, and to, help people to learn skills of cooperation and, and the joys of creating something together.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because I can see the benefit of teamwork and the benefit of allowing the individual to shine, because you could have, I can see the benefits of both, and because there's times when, obviously if this one person is a great cello player or singer or whatever, and the rest of the team isn't, do we not allow the one that has this gift to, shine? Because, nobody else can play the cello, so you can't play it either. Or nobody else has the, that would be sad too, right? Like, there's places, it seems to me like there are places that...
Well, if you're working at McDonald's and you're the one who makes the best buns, toast the best buns the fastest, you do get that.
Oh,
and
okay.
That's, it's not that, the whole, it doesn't mean that it's mutually exclusive.
Okay.
There's no room for individual In fact, part of creating a team experience is to show people examples of the most effective way of doing things and make it worth their while to do that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But the emphasis is made on on the outcome of the whole team work, not on the outcome of what one person does.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking about. And right now we are seeing a big shift in people. A lot of people are becoming much more aware of the situation on the planet, which was, I don't think 100 years ago people spent a lot of time thinking about the planet per se or our survival as a species. People were more inclined, like you say, there are a lot more people in survival mode because of we didn't have, the industry that we have. We didn't have the technology.
I wouldn't say for a second that more people were in survival mode than are now. I'd say probably as many people are in survival mode now as were then, because survival is taught to us as a way of being. We're taught to compete as if there's a lack of something, like the letter grades.
Well, true,
but
okay, so maybe it's just the communication, the ability to have, because it feels like we are saturated today with bad news, dire situation. Like it feels
isn't that the job of the media, is to sell news? And
what I'm seeing is it feels like, to me, and I'm saying just to me, it feels like there's almost two camps. There's the you know what, life is really good, I'm making money, I have a nice house and a nice blah blah blah, and I'm not really that concerned about anything else, really. There seems to be a kind of occasionally, I like things that are going my way. And then you have a whole other group of people that are just constantly thinking about the food supply, the pharmaceuticals, the big oil, it's like alarm bells ringing, steady. And then you look and because I see the two, it's like, here's a picture of me, I just went out with my friends, we had a great time, look at my beautiful outfit, I'm so gorgeous, and not saying and I don't mean that to be facetious, I mean it, they are celebrating, they are not saying they're super content and happy and whatever, but they appear to be living. For what good, they might complain, but their complaints are about things like, they broke the heel on their shoe, or they've got a flat tire, or they whatever. And then you have this whole other group, and you never see that from them. I shouldn't say never, but very rarely do they show here's my life, I'm joyful. It's more of the world is in a terrible mess, and if you guys don't...
I don't think we can, divide anything up into two groups.
Okay.
I think what we're seeing is people becoming more, some people are becoming more aware because of I think a lot of it is the internet gives more people more access to more truths about what's going on in the planet.
Okay.
And I think that this is exactly the point about new wine and old wineskins, is that people are seeing all of this information that they may not have had access to before, whether it has always been there or it is developing, as if we're going down a path that, has been predicted, because of the way we're treating the environment, because of the transition that we're making, whatever the reason. There's always been bad news, but no, we haven't had so much access to it. So people who in their everyday lives might have confined their old wineskins to worry about their everyday experience, are now transferring that behavior to this new transition stage, okay? Plus, because people have so much more access to each other's words and opinions, we're seeing it more on things like in social media.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, in social media, what happens is things become very stratified. If you are hooked into a group of people on your Facebook who have a certain kind of interest,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be selecting you and you're going to be selecting them, and there's more of them because this access is so readily available now.
Right.
It's going to be a perception that that's all you're hearing.
Mm.
So if you look at that as a mirror of who you are and what you're going through,
right,
maybe what you're leaving, what you're moving into, you can use that as an understanding, without any judgment, of something that has been a part of your world and that is maybe you're moving out of or you're looking at in a different way. Okay?
Right. So you would be attracting certain friends who have common interests. And so therefore you're going to
resonating not just with your words but with your energy. They're a mirror of who you are and where you are. And what you're uncomfortable with is things that you might be uncomfortable with about in your world, about within yourself. Things that, are being amplified because more and more people are, joining in that particular vibration group that you have accessed in your social media.
Right.
This is where we can make these assumptions that may or may not be true, because we have this way of creating our world through our thoughts and our beliefs. And that applies to social media as much as to anything else, but it's very, very obvious because it's also, what do we pay attention to? What catches our attention? What triggers our fear? What triggers our annoyance? It's all very personal.
Oh, that's why we're having this conversation. Absolutely. So, because this is really important, because this is where people, will say things like I just said, that, it appears that there's two groups, and I mean, there's 7 billion people on the planet, so obviously there's a lot more than two groups, right?
I don't have 7.5 billion people on my friends on Facebook, it's for sure.
Yeah.
And, I think that, we have to think about what are the purposes of the different media that we're accessing, and what purpose do we put it to personally, which attracts people with those same or like, or maybe opposing, who are, people who are finding the opposite to what they're looking for. So it's really hard to make those kind of declarations. It's better to say, I seem to be seeing myself right
and
now.
that's exactly what I am
having this reaction.
Yeah, this is what I am
having this understanding. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then when people that are listening can hear these have been my observations, and I'm going to guess that having this new awareness will change my perception and probably my energy.
And this is the time of this time on the planet. This particular transition we're going through is taking us out of an industrial group mentality, okay? So we have built up through mankind's history, you can say the last 2,000 years, let's use that as an example, of, going from very loose-knit, small community into bigger and bigger groups and we've created, what would you call it, corporate entities like education systems, governments, banks, that can level out the playing field of different kind of things that happen with regularity on the planet. So, for instance, in times of famine, we have created systems that level out the big roller coaster of experience of famines, of money changes, and of many, many different things that we've come to associate with different parts of our life. In the wavelengths of up and down experiences in of our life, we have leveraged our individual power into the power of large groups, and those large groups having rules and ways of operating that create a smaller wave of change so that our lives are much more controllable and predictable.
Right.
That's what we've done up until like the 1990s. And we're in this transition stage. And in the transition stage, what happens is we must move into a different way of being on the planet as we mature. So what part of the teaching that I received about the whole change of the Mayan calendar that we're going through is this time, because we've already created these structures of immensity, they start to take on a life of their own and start taking over, which isn't good. They've gone past what they need to go past in terms of looking after us, creating stability for us. And now we, from that place, are taken out of our survival mentality and quickly put into an understanding of ourselves as capable through this kind of technology of having leverage, of taking care of survival issues when we work together, when we're cooperative, when we mitigate the big up and downs of the physical world. And then we can, from that place, start using our highest, most self-actualized behaviors to live our lives according to a high standard of ethics. And since we're moving into that high self-actualized area of what Maslow's pyramid teaches us, the hierarchy, at that level, we can access what I call the one will, the unified field of understanding of life, the consciousness that we all have, and we can start making decisions that everyone can participate in that culminate in ethical interactions with the environment, with each other.
Before we end tonight's show, can you please, because there may be people who really don't get what happens when you put new wine into old wineskins, because I think it's
bad. It goes bad. You just don't do it.
Yeah, it's sort of like taking sour milk and putting it into a container
or taking a container that used to have old milk in it and putting the new milk in it.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to.
Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Yeah. Just so that people get that whole concept.
That's right.
You know, because
you've used the past to sully the future. But we do that as humans, and we soon learn the error of our ways. Mm-hmm. Because if you had a whole batch of fresh milk or fresh wine and you put it in your old wineskins or your old, unwashed milk bottles, mm-hmm. you have wasted your whole new supply. So we learn not to do that.
Right, and in when you translate that into the new understandings, you can't put the new understandings into the old ways of doing things. So this is where our behavior.
We can, but they don't work. They just don't work.
They don't work. So this is where our behavior, by default, is going to change because we learn by that. Right. That's how exactly. I put my hand on the stove, I burn it. I'm not going to do it again. So I take a new understanding.
If your family has just gotten a new stove and you didn't have a stove before, you'd learn that new behavior very quickly.
Right, and that's what's happening to us with our new understandings of being in this higher vibration. We are recognizing that just having the new understanding, we just can't apply it the same way we applied it in the past.
That's right. So let's say you have a person who has brought up their children and, you know, a loving, kind mother, but that mother tends to say to their children, do this, do that, do the other. And the children, because they, you know, they love their mother and they're used to her, they say, okay, and they do it. You know, that's the habit. But when that woman gets a job and leaves the home or gets a circle of grown-up friends and she talks to them that way, they don't like it. They don't like to be told what to do.
Very good.
And
that's a good analogy because that is what happens sometimes. And also, if you've been in a group of, like you say, say your circle has been like-minded people, and so you've been saying things a certain way, and there's an understanding. Everybody kind of gets what you're saying, and they have their own beliefs around it, so there's no big argument. And then you try to take that same, make a statement, which happens sometimes. You have a new understanding, and you've been talking to a lot of people that agree with you or that share, you know, sort of a belief, and then you get in, you know, you go out for dinner and you're with a whole different group, and all of a sudden you say something, you can have that same thing happen. People go, she is nuts. Or he,
who the heck does she think she is?
Exactly. So
you get a lot of sour grapes.
Yeah, but I think though once we have that awareness that could happen, when we have a new awareness, because the other people aren't the ones that had it, you did. So you know, it's a good idea if we can maybe be a little bit more gentle with ourselves, but also with other people to see that and how we say things. Be conscious of it.
That's right. So more and more people are learning how to practice nonviolent communication.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're wanting to overcome this belief in war and this, you know, when we don't want to have a third world war, we can't take the playground language of fighting and dissing and bring it into a group of people who have access to nuclear bombs, you know?
Yeah, that's probably not the wisest.
But this is how we mature. We learn how to have behaviors that correspond to the new aspects of maturity that we have gained. And at this time on the planet, we're starting to recognize we have the power to destroy our home, our planet. It's not just, you know, blowing up somebody else's playground or, you know, we can't afford to do this anymore. And that's what we learn at these times of transition. It's really uncomfortable, so we have to learn new behaviors. The new behaviors come along with it. When, you know, the behaviors that used to work when we were bringing up kids or when we were with, you know, our close friends and that, we go onto social media and we suddenly have people reacting us in ways that are, it's quite, you know, we get rejected. It hurts.
Yeah. Well, and also because we're confused too, because you think, well, confused. Gee, you know, what should I say?
What's wrong with those people? What's wrong with those people? They're all nuts.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, exactly. And we start rallying the troops, and then we find out, well, we don't have the troops we thought we had anyway. And then, you know, but I think also the important thing about that too is, like you say, you choose your words differently, but also it's not about just like nonviolent communication is you're still communicating, but you're not just saying, oh, okay. I'm just going to say, in the past, sometimes when when I grew up, we were just taught you don't discuss. This is what was told to us: polite conversation does not include religion or politics or money. So that is how people didn't argue, even though, you know, they had differences in all those areas: religion, money, and politics. So, but now
at some point we have to talk about them, don't we?
Well, now we do talk about them, right? But we haven't. And so it's not that we're not going to have the conversation. It's not that we're not going to have discussion. But like you say, we can do it in a nonviolent way, which is
that's right. And we can
important.
recognize those survival behaviors for what they are, and we can choose to not be coming from a place where we're fear-mongering, or where, recognizing that maybe we don't have a fear about something, but when we say something, we can trigger another person's fear, especially when we're on social media, because we're not looking them in the eye. That, so much of a percentage of our interaction with people in person is body language, and we're cutting out that whole area of tone and posture and, the personality that shines through the body. And so we have to recognize that we must use our words very carefully when we're on the social media. And also there's a maturity that comes that, just because one person's attention is focused on a certain area that they are convinced is the secret to this world working properly, there's a place to step back and go, other people's point of view has credibility too, and that we're not going to gather people together by demanding that people, or telling people they're stupid for not thinking our set of priorities are the right ones.
Yeah, and also, just because
like getting people's back up,
Well, yeah, and also sometimes what I've found is that you may not agree, or there, a lot of times people have their triggers, but you may be able to find common ground in other areas. So don't write people off completely because they said the sky was brown when you are convinced it's blue.
Right.
Because you may find that
there's get new glasses.
or get some new ones for yourself. Like sometimes, sometimes that's what happens is we just go right. Oh, that guy's
The thing about Maslow's hierarchy is that makes it kind of an interesting kind of understanding is that basically, in order to get to that place of the highest actualization where you're able to really be effective and functioning in the world, to be happy with your functioning in the world, to feel like you're in control of your life, is you have to have faith in something other than the apparent world around you. Now, that sounds very hard. And I have to say, this was a place where I was stuck when I was a young person, because I kept being told that in order to do the things I wanted to do, I had to believe in God. And I grew up in this atheist family,
Oh, yeah, that would be hard.
But here you hear me. What am I talking about? So there is a process of intelligent change that happens in this world to bring us out of survival and into our highest functioning. And that's what this transition is all about. We are moving out of survival because at a certain level we are coming home to who we really are. More and more of the tiles are coming out of the game box, and so we can use all that information, all those patterns, all those choices to feel safer and to recognize there's no lack, to move out of into abundance. And to that, there's just processes that take each individual from exactly where they are to somewhere else. And self-actualized people know that because it's happened to them. They realize that they are not, I'm going to talk for myself, I realize that whether I'm self-actualized or not, I'm not going to put myself in a group, but my life has been guided with a certainty and assurance that even when I couldn't see it, things were working for my best, even when they seemed to be working for my worst. And a point came in my life when I could trust that for myself and for other people around me, that intention and goodness were guiding me. And as I learned to trust that more, that energy speeds up all the time as I move in more into trust. So this is not something we have to struggle at. This is not something we have to make it happen. And that's what gets us out of the survival energy, is when we start noticing that all the things that we struggle for are the ones that don't tend to work the best. Mm-hmm. But things are happening behind the scenes, taking us actually where we really wanted to go.
And it comes back to the concept that we can have peace in our world. It's us. We change us. That's all any of us has to do. That's
all we have any choice of doing. We can't change other people.
Right.
And when we come across these people who are exhorting and fighting and debating and telling people they're stupid, whatever the way that they're doing, and they're trying to change other people, they're banging their heads against the wall.
Mm-hmm. But for us, we don't even have to, we can just be aware of it. We don't have to engage. We don't have to, and that's,
and there's
I think,
so many times, places in my life where I realize I'm not at peace, and I can look at it and I'm trying to force change somewhere in my life, on other people, on myself, on my circumstances, when, really I can more and more, I get very grateful that there's that voice that reminds me, you know what, just turn it over. You're going where you're going. There's going to be enough pieces out of the box soon enough that you're going to see the pattern for what's going on in your world. And wow, there's going to be an end to this set of circumstances.
Right. Wow. Well, I think that's just awesome. That has covered it for me. Do you feel complete with this? I really feel like I knew we were going somewhere. I just didn't know where.
Chewed on this bristle long enough.
So you're good?
I'm very good. That's always so much fun, Catherine. I can imagine that for listeners, it could be kind of frustrating because, they're wanting to get a word in edgewise. I would be like that. I couldn't listen to us, Catherine. I'd be going, yes, but don't you get this? And what are you talking about? And we could just talk, it's like,
I think it's fun. And this is why I created this, as a series on its own, because of the fact that it is this deep exploration. It's not simply a talk show. It's not just a chat. It is a raising consciousness kind of exploration. That's the point of it, right? And there are many people. The feedback I get and the numbers of people listening to this particular series tells me that there's a lot of people that are having a lot of fun with us. So,
I hope so.
Yeah.
I sure hope so.
I think that's definitely a truth.
God bless us all.
Yeah, God bless us all. That's right.
And what's the next sentence? And to all a good night.
And that's a perfect way to end the show. Thank you, Debbie. This has just been a riot. And I really do want to thank all of you listeners for taking this journey with us, because as Debbie says, this is, it's, for some people it would be hard to listen to, and I appreciate that you've joined us, because I think it's fun. And absolutely, I invite you to give us your feedback. Post your comments on Facebook, on where the links are for the show, on the website. There's lots of places to comment, because that's how we're going to learn that what we're doing is you're enjoying and benefiting from as well. Because otherwise, this is the kind of stuff Debbie and I do all the time, and I'll tell you what, it just doesn't stop, because that's how we are. So thank you so much again for joining us, and take a look around the website, look at the other shows that we have on Let's Get Real Chatting with Catherine.com or LGRCC.com. Right on the show listing page. On demand, you can listen at your leisure, get your cup of tea and sit down and have a good listen, and share it. Please share it with your friends and people that you think will enjoy it. I absolutely love being with you, and for information on all the shows, on the replays, on future guests, please go to the show page, and there's an RSS feed. Sign up for it, and then you can get the update in your email. Until next time, take care.
Wasn't that amazing? Thank you to my guests for sharing with us today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. You can join us for live shows by going to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and listen to the replays from the show page preview guests, and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.